One evening, Mike and his wife, Julian, were visiting Mike's sister's house. Mike was having fun with his nephew there. The nephew insisted on seeing Mike's pet cat. To fulfill his request, Mike showed him videos of his pet cat on his phone, calming him down. After spending some time, Mike and Julian bid farewell to his sister and set out for home. Julian was driving, but she seemed upset as she wanted to have a baby, while Mike felt he wasn't ready yet. Distracted by this conversation, they narrowly avoided a severe accident. They stopped the car to check on each other. Just then, a large truck rammed into their car and drove away. The story then shifts to several days later. Mike is seen lying in his room. After waking up, he feeds his cat. It is revealed that Julian had died in that accident. On television, people were being warned about the deadly TSG virus, a new outbreak following COVID-19. Unconcerned, Mike drives out of the house. While driving, he hears the same warning on the radio. He reaches his destination, where two women were waiting for him. Mike had advertised online to sell his beloved boat. When the women ask to see the boat's paperwork, Mike goes inside the boat to retrieve it. There he finds Julian's favorite bracelet, bringing back beautiful memories of their time together. Afterward, Mike visits a supermarket to buy some essentials and then returns home. He puts Julian's favorite bracelet on his pet cat. That night, he talks to his sister via video call. His sister's husband is in the army, and she tells Mike they plan to leave the city that night due to the worsening situation caused by the virus. She invites Mike to join them, but he refuses. The next morning, Mike sees through his window that neighbors are leaving the colony in search of safer places. This prompts him to reconsider his decision, and he decides to join his sister, taking his cat along. Upon reaching the airport and waiting for some time, Mike gets in line for immigration. He informs his sister that he will meet her soon. Suddenly, all flights, including his, get canceled. Chaos erupts at the airport, and Mike receives a high alert notification on his phone, stating that the virus has spread to their city as well. His sister calls him, urging him to return home immediately. On his way back, he gets stuck in a massive traffic jam. Left with no choice, he abandons his car and starts walking home. It is nearly night by the time he reaches home. On his way, he sees an ambulance stop in front of a house where military personnel are present. When Mike asks what's happening, a soldier sternly tells him to leave. A while later, Mike witnesses a virus-infected person for the first time. Shocked, he realizes that the infected person is someone he knows, but is now in a horrific condition. After returning home, Mike keeps visualizing the car accident that killed Julian. The next morning, Mike's sister calls and tells him there's no chance of the airport reopening. The situation is worsening, and the government plans to relocate everyone to safe zones. However, she warns Mike not to go, as those places might become more dangerous later. Mike, while watching short videos on his phone, sees the dire conditions of the infected people and becomes terrified. Some videos show people making makeshift tools to protect themselves from zombies. Mike then receives an alert message stating that the city will be completely locked down after 2 p.m. He rushes to the supermarket to buy essentials, but finds it in chaos, with people looting everything they can. When Mike grabs a packet of food, someone snatches it from him. He manages to grab some cat food and heads outside, where he sees a police officer with a severe injury locking himself inside the supermarket. Suddenly, zombies attack, and Mike witnesses one attacking another police officer. Mike tries to help, but the zombie lunges at him. Before it can attack, the injured police officer shoots it from behind, killing it. When Mike tries to help the injured officer, he is warned to stay back. Meanwhile, the officer who had locked himself inside the supermarket gradually transforms into a zombie. Horrified by these events, Mike returns home and reinforces his doors and walls to prevent zombies from breaking in. That night, military personnel came to evacuate residents to a safe zone. When they arrive at Mike's house and start searching, Mike tries to hide, but his cat keeps meowing. The soldiers attempt to break down his door but give up after failing to unlock the new locks Mike had installed. Relieved, Mike watches them leave. Days turn into weeks, and Mike's food supplies begin to dwindle. He sends multiple messages to his sister asking for advice, but due to the government shutting down the network, he cannot reach her. With no other options, Mike dons a diving suit, arms himself with some weapons, and ventures out in search of food. He goes into neighboring houses but finds little. In one house, he meets an elderly woman named Gabriel, who is wheelchair-bound and couldn't leave with the others. Gabriel has information about the neighboring houses, as she could observe everything from her window. She tells Mike where he might find food, and he manages to gather some supplies, and even finds a bike. Mike and Gabriel share dinner that night, and he gives her a walkie-talkie to stay in touch. With these supplies, Mike survives for a few more days. One day, the government announces on the radio that those stranded in the city will soon be relocated to Kennedy Island, the only place unaffected by the virus. Hearing this, Mike is overjoyed as his sister and her family are already there. He shares the news with Gabriel, but she initially refuses to go due to her condition. The next day, Mike goes to Gabriel's house to take her along, but he finds that she has passed away. Before dying, she wrote a note expressing gratitude toward Mike. Deeply saddened, Mike leaves the house. Suddenly, a zombie attacks him. He manages to fend it off and climbs onto a car. During the struggle, the zombie bites him, but his diving suit protects him. He eventually shoots and kills the zombie. Mike returns home and, despite the lack of network, sends a message to his sister saying he will join her soon. He then takes his cat, gets on his bike, and heads toward the designated location. After a long journey, he finds the road out of the city blocked. Forced to take a jungle path, the sound of his bike attracts a horde of zombies. After narrowly escaping, Mike stumbles upon an abandoned camp crawling with zombies. As they chase him, he manages to escape back onto the road. However, he crashes into a pile of corpses and falls off his bike. The zombies close in as he struggles to restart the bike. Left with no choice, Mike abandons the bike and starts running with his cat in his arms. Eventually, he reaches the coast, where his boat was supposed to be docked. He quickly locks the gate behind him, but the zombies break through the glass door. Mike rushes ahead and secures a large iron gate, only to discover that his boat is no longer there. Looking into the distance, he spots a boat anchored far away. Immediately, he swims toward the boat in the water. When he gets on the boat and tries to start it, the boat doesn't start. At that moment, he hears a noise from inside the boat. He wonders if there might be a zombie inside. When he opens the door, he sees a zombie child. Forced to leave the boat behind, he takes a speedboat and sets off for his destination. While traveling, he sends a message to his sister, but doesn't receive a reply. Later, he sees a light on a distant boat. The boat is approaching him. Inside the boat are people from another country, armed with weapons. They take Mike aboard their boat and later transfer him to a large ship. Upon reaching the ship, they provide him with food. On this ship, there is a man named David, who tells Mike that outsiders are not allowed on Kennedy Island. David asks Mike to work with them on the ship, and Mike agrees. He is given a small room to stay in. At night, Mike is awakened by a sound coming from outside. When he looks out the window, he sees some people in a small speedboat pleading to be taken aboard the ship. The next morning, Mike cannot see those people, but notices their speedboat and belongings on the ship. When he asks David about it, David denies anyone arriving the previous night. Later, Mike is called to the captain's office. The captain asks him about nearby locations where they can find food and supplies. Mike helps them by providing the information. He then tries to talk to David again and learns that David is a pilot. Mike tells David about a helicopter he knows of and suggests they could use it to leave and reach Kennedy Island. But David avoids discussing this any further. This raises Mike's suspicion that there might be something wrong with the ship. That night, Mike decides to escape. When he goes to the basement to prepare for his escape, he sees two people tied up. These are the same people he had seen pleading for help in the speedboat the previous night. He unties them, but just then, a guard arrives and spots them. The guard immediately shoots one of them dead and attempts to kill Mike too. At that moment, David appears and intervenes. In the ensuing scuffle, David kills the guard. David tells Mike that they must escape immediately. Taking the freed captives with them, they flee on a small speedboat. However, the other guards on the ship spot them and start shooting at them. Everyone except Mike and David is killed in the attack. David also gets hit by a bullet but manages to survive. Somehow they reach the shore. On the shore, they find a car and set out for the hospital where Mike's wife, Julianne, had been treated after their accident. This hospital has the helicopter Mike had mentioned to David earlier. When they arrive at the hospital, a zombie suddenly charges at their car. After much struggle, they manage to throw the zombie off and shoot it. The sound of the gunshot attracts more zombies. Mike kills all the zombies one by one. Afterward, he places David on a hospital bed and begins searching for the necessary equipment to remove the bullet from David's body. While searching, Mike hears voices from an upper floor. He tries to talk to the people, but is suddenly attacked by a zombie. Although he shoots the zombie, the sound of the gunshot causes a horde of zombies to come running toward him. With no other option, he escapes to the room where he had left David and his cat, but neither of them is there. At that moment, a girl named Lucia opens a back door and quickly calls Mike inside. Just as the zombies arrive, Mike enters and shuts the door. Inside, he meets another woman named Cecilia and some children. Lucia, a nurse, removes the bullet from David's body and helps him recover. Mike asks Lucia if the hospital still has the helicopter. Lucia takes Mike to see it, and they find the helicopter parked in the hospital's back area, surrounded by hundreds of zombies. They devise a plan to reach the helicopter. Shortly after, Mike receives a flurry of messages from his sister, making him very happy. But just as he is about to reply, he hears a gunshot from below. Looking down, he sees the terrorists from the ship have arrived. Mike quickly informs everyone that they need to leave immediately or risk being captured. They try to reach the helicopter through the basement. After breaking the final gate, a zombie attacks them. Though Mike kills the zombie, it bites Cecilia before dying. Since Cecilia is infected, they leave her behind and move forward. A little further ahead, they are attacked by more zombies. Mike hides in a small space with a child, while the others take refuge in another room and shut the door. The ferocious zombies almost break the door, but the terrorists arrive and shoot the zombies. The terrorists don't realize that anyone is hiding nearby and leave. Once the coast is clear, everyone regroups. They construct a cage-like structure and use it to move past the zombies. Eventually, they reach the helicopter. David boards the helicopter with the children, while Mike and Lucia fend off the zombies. However, the helicopter won't start and the zombies start breaking in. As Mike fights the zombies, David fixes the helicopter's plug and it starts. But just then, the terrorists arrive and hold them at gunpoint, demanding they get off the helicopter. David signals Mike to do something, and Mike opens the opposite gate, letting in the ferocious zombies. The zombies attack the terrorists, and Mike uses an axe to fight off the zombies coming his way. After a tough battle, he manages to board the helicopter. Everyone, including Mike's cat, survives. They set off for Kennedy Island. Just then, Mike receives a call from his sister, warning him not to come to the island. At the same time, 2 fighter jets are seen heading toward the island. It becomes clear that the TSG virus has now spread to Kennedy Island. And the movie ends here with this scene. Let us know in the comments how you liked the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.